I sat in the corner of Attorney Morrison's office while my mother gestured expansively at the lake house photographs she'd brought. The smell of leather and old law books filled the room. Dad had his reading glasses on, reviewing trust documents with the confidence of someone who believed every word written there. "This property has been in our family for generations," Mom explained, which was interesting since I'd purchased it myself 8 years ago with money from my first consulting contract. "We want to ensure it stays that way." Attorney Morrison, a man in his late 50s with careful eyes, nodded slowly. He glanced at me. "And you are their daughter," I said quietly. "Emma. She'll benefit from the trust eventually," Dad added, waving his hand dismissively. "Once she learns some responsibility." I pulled my title insurance policy from my bag and slid it across the mahogany desk. The thick document landed with a soft thud against Morrison's coffee cup. He picked it up and I watched his expression shift as he read the first page. "Mrs. Chin," he said slowly, "this policy lists Emma Chin as the sole owner. Purchase date, April 2016. There's no mention of family ownership or prior transfers." The room went quiet except for the soft tick of the grandfather clock behind Morrison's desk. Mom's face lost color. Dad's jaw tightened, that little tell when he was trying not to show panic. "That's obviously a mistake," Mom said, recovering quickly. "The property has always been ours. Emma just helps with some paperwork." I'd heard this narrative my entire adult life. Every achievement reframed. Every success recontextualized as luck, help, or temporary responsibility for something that truly belonged to them. Morrison's fingers drummed once on his desk. "I'll need to verify ownership through county records before proceeding. This is standard due diligence for any trust involving real property." "Of course," I said. Dad shot me a look that would have silenced me 10 years ago. Now it just made me tired. The call came 3 days later. I was reviewing client proposals when my phone showed Morrison's office number. "Miss Chin, I've completed the title search." His voice was professional but carried an edge I hadn't heard before. "The property at 4847 Lakeshore Drive has been in your sole ownership since 2016. There are no liens, no co-owners, no family claims of any kind. Your parents have no legal interest in this property." "I know," I said simply. "Did you authorize them to place it in trust?" "No." There was a pause. "I see. I've informed your parents that I cannot proceed with creating a trust for property they don't own. I've also recommended they consult separate counsel regarding certain disclosures they made during our initial meeting." I understood what he wasn't saying directly. They'd claimed ownership. They'd signed documents attesting to that ownership. They'd done this in front of an attorney, creating a lovely paper trail of fraud. "What did they say?" I asked. "Your mother hung up. Your father asked if there was any way to fix this misunderstanding." Morrison's tone suggested what he thought of that characterization. I declined to discuss it further. The screaming started that evening. My phone lit up with 17 calls from Mom, 12 from Dad, and a stream of text from my brother Kyle. "What did you do? They're losing it. Call them back. This is family." I didn't call back. Instead, I pulled out what I privately called the archive. A leather accordion folder, heavy with documents I'd collected over 8 years. Every dismissal. Every moment they'd rewritten my achievements into their narrative. The lake house purchase, April 2016. I'd earned $127,000 from a consulting contract. 6 months of 18-hour days building a market analysis system for a pharmaceutical company. The lake house was listed at $340,000, but I'd found it before it hit the main market. A retired couple wanted a quick sale. I offered $315,000 cash, closed in 3 weeks. I remembered calling Mom to share the news. "That's nice, honey," she'd said. "But property ownership is complicated for single women. You should have your father manage it." I declined. The property went into my name alone. I had the deed framed. At that year's Christmas dinner, Dad had announced, "We've acquired a beautiful lake house. Emma's been helping us with some of the paperwork." I'd said nothing. I thought if I proved successful enough, they'd eventually see me as I actually was. That was the gambler's fallacy applied to family dynamics. I kept feeding the slot machine of their approval, convinced the jackpot of genuine recognition was mathematically inevitable. But their narrative was more important than my reality. It always had been. The ghost ledger. I opened my laptop and created a new spreadsheet. Title: The Ghost Ledger, Non-Financial Costs. Entry 1, June 2016. Dad's 60th birthday. I arrived with photos of the lake house renovation I'd personally funded. $43,000 in updates. Dad showed guests around while I held drinks. Our new lake retreat, he said 14 times. Cost: being erased from my own achievement. Never recoverable. Entry 2, September 2017. Mom's Garden Club wanted to tour the Chin family estate. I spent 2 days cleaning and preparing my property for their event. Mom introduced me as the caretaker who helps maintain it. Cost: self-worth, dignity. The assumption I'd ever challenge her publicly. Entry 3, Thanksgiving 2018. Kyle announced his new apartment. Family celebrated for 40 minutes. I mentioned installing solar panels at the lake house. $31,000 investment reducing carbon footprint by 73%. Mom said, "That's nice," and changed the subject. Cost: 30 seconds of attention versus Kyle's 40 minutes. The math of who mattered. Entry 4, April 2020. Pandemic lockdown. Family needed a place to shelter. They stayed at my lake house for 4 months. I paid utilities, maintenance, property taxes. When they left, Dad said, "Good to know the family property is well maintained." Cost: $8,400 in expenses. Zero acknowledgement. Zero gratitude. The ledger grew to 47 entries. Line items of emotional theft that had no statute of limitations. Morrison called again a week later. "Your parents have retained an attorney. Gerald Blackwood. He's known for aggressive property litigation." He paused. "I wanted to give you advance warning. They're planning to file a claim asserting beneficial ownership through long-term family use and improvement contributions." "They contributed nothing," I said flatly. "I have receipts for every repair, every tax payment, every utility bill for 8 years." "Good. Keep everything organized." Blackwood will argue equitable claims, implied agreements, family understanding. The fact that you never corrected their public statements about ownership could be problematic. "I see. One more thing," Morrison said. "I'm required to report potential fraud to the state bar when it occurs in my presence. I've filed that report regarding the false representations made during our initial consultation." I thanked him and hung up. Then I called my own attorney. Janet Park had handled my business contracts for 6 years. She listened to the full story without interruption. "How much documentation do you have?" she asked. "Everything. Purchase records, mortgage documents, tax payments, insurance policies, renovation receipts, utility bills. Every single transaction in my name alone." "Good. We'll need certified copies of all property records. The county assessor should have the complete chain of title. Also, I want to depose your parents about every conversation where they claimed ownership. Every dinner party, every family gathering. We'll document the pattern." "They're my parents," I said quietly. "They're attempting to steal property worth approximately $500,000, Janet replied. "They committed fraud in front of an attorney. This isn't a family disagreement, Emma. This is a crime." The procedural machinery moved forward with the steady precision of a system designed to find truth. Step 1. Evidence collection. Week 1. I organized 8 years of documentation into chronological order. Every deed, every canceled check, every tax return listing the property. Digital backups stored in 3 separate locations. Total pages: 847. Step 2. Professional consultation. Week 2. Janet retained a forensic accountant and a handwriting expert. We needed to be ready for whatever Blackwood filed. Step 3. The counterclaim. Week 3. When my parents filed their lawsuit claiming beneficial ownership, Janet responded with a counterclaim: fraud, defamation, intentional interference with property rights, and a request for attorney's fees. We attached 184 pages of exhibits. Step 4. Discovery. Weeks 4 to 8. Blackwood demanded documentation. We provided everything, the complete trail of sole ownership so clear it read like a legal textbook example. Then we demanded theirs. My parents produced 12 family photographs showing them at the lake house, 3 witness statements from relatives claiming they'd heard my parents call it our property, and a handwritten note allegedly from me granting them ownership rights. I'd never written that note. Step 5. Handwriting Analysis, Week 9. The forensic document examiner compared the note to my actual writing samples. Her report was precise. The question document shows 23 points of divergence from the known exemplars. Conclusion: the signature was not written by Emma Chin. Confidence level: 99.4%. The ink analysis was even more damning. The note was dated 2017, but the ink formulation hadn't been commercially available until 2019. Step 6. The settlement offer, Week 10. Blackwood called Janet. My parents would drop all claims if I agreed not to pursue criminal charges. No, I said. Janet conveyed my response. The case moved toward trial. Step 7. The motion hearing, Week 12. Judge Patricia Thornton reviewed both sides' evidence in chambers before trial. I sat in the courtroom waiting, watching my parents whisper urgently with Blackwood. When Thornton emerged, her expression was carved from granite. I've reviewed all submitted materials. The plaintiff's evidence of ownership is non-existent. The defendant's documentation is comprehensive and unchallenged. Furthermore, the handwriting analysis reveals attempted fraud. She looked directly at my parents. Plaintiff's claims are dismissed with prejudice. I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for potential criminal prosecution. Court adjourned. The gavel struck once. Dad's face went pale. Mom grabbed Blackwood's sleeve, but he was already closing his briefcase. I can't represent you in criminal proceedings, he said quietly. You'll need separate counsel. Step 8. Immediate consequences. Security escorted my parents from the courthouse. I walked out the front entrance alone. Step 9. Criminal investigation, Week 13. The DA's office opened a formal investigation into fraud, forgery, and perjury. My parents hired a criminal defense attorney. Their retainer, $50,000. Step 10. The follow-through, Week 16. My parents accepted a plea agreement. No jail time in exchange for guilty pleas to attempted fraud, 3 years probation, $15,000 in restitution to cover my attorney's fees, and a permanent restraining order prohibiting contact. Their attorney's final bill, $127,000. The amount I'd earned to buy the lake house in the first place. 6 months later, I stood on the deck of the lake house watching sunrise paint the water gold. The smell of pine and clean morning air. The soft lap of waves against the dock. The temperature cool enough to see my breath. I'd added 2 more properties to my portfolio. A downtown condo and a small commercial building. 9 properties total now, all in my name alone. Kyle sent one email asking if I'd reconsider the restraining order for Mom's birthday. I didn't respond. There is a particular kind of freedom that comes from watching people experience the consequences they spent years trying to dodge. Not rage. Not satisfaction. Just the quiet relief of a closed account. The lake house still stands at 4847 Lakeshore Drive. The deed still has my name alone. The trust my parents tried to create never existed. From the property I fought to protect, my future begins now. The message notification lit up my phone screen as I sat in my private office atop the Grand Azure Resort and Spa, overlooking the crystalline waters of the Maldives. Amanda, since you're still finding yourself with that travel blog nobody reads, we thought it best not to invite you to Dad's 60th. The Grand Azure is very exclusive. Rooms start at $5,000 per night. Wouldn't want you to feel uncomfortable. I glanced through the floor-to-ceiling windows at my flagship property, the crown jewel of Eclipse Luxury Resorts, my carefully hidden hospitality empire. If only Amanda knew that her struggling little sister owned not just this resort, but a chain of 35 luxury properties across the globe. Miss Parker. My assistant Emma knocked softly. The quarterly reports are ready, and the new property acquisition in Bali is finalized. I smiled, thinking of how my family still believed I was backpacking around Asia, writing a travel blog to make ends meet. In reality, I was building one of the world's most exclusive hotel chains, all while maintaining the perfect cover story. Thank you, Emma. And the arrangements for my father's birthday celebration. She consulted her tablet. Everything is set. Your family's booking is confirmed for the Royal Ocean Villa, though they think they're getting a significant industry discount through their connections. I had to laugh at that. My sister Amanda, always the social climber, had probably pulled every string she could to get that discount. Not knowing that I'd personally designed that villa, right down to the infinity pool that seemed to merge with the Indian Ocean. Another text buzzed through. Mom, darling, we know you're still upset about leaving Kingston Hotel's executive training program, but this lifestyle you've chosen. Perhaps it's time to come home and rejoin the family business. Kingston Hotels, the mid-range hotel chain where my family held minor executive positions, all of them convinced they were hospitality industry royalty. They'd been devastated when I'd walked away from their dynasty 5 years ago. What they didn't know was that I'd used my inheritance and business degree to start investing in luxury properties, building Eclipse Luxury Resorts into a billion-dollar empire that made Kingston Hotels look like a roadside motel chain. Emma, what's the current occupancy rate? I asked, already knowing the answer. 98% across all properties, Ms. Parker. The waiting list for the Grand Azure is 6 months long, except for your family's last-minute booking, which you personally approved. I stood up, walking to the window to watch the sunset paint the ocean in shades of gold. Below, guests lounged in private pools, dined at Michelin-starred restaurants, and enjoyed the kind of luxury my family could only dream of providing in their hotels. My phone buzzed again. Amanda, by the way, I heard the owner of Grand Azure might be at Dad's party. Some mysterious hotel magnate. Maybe you could serve drinks and network? Face blowing a kiss. If she only knew that the mysterious hotel magnate was her own sister. I'd kept my identity hidden through a complex web of corporations and investment firms, appearing in public only as E.J. Parker, the reclusive founder of Eclipse Luxury Resorts. Emma, confirm my schedule for next week's inspection visit, to coincide with my father's birthday celebration. I smiled, thinking of the moment they'd realize who really owned their exclusive resort. Of course, Miss Parker. Should I arrange the usual disguise for your routine property inspection? Not this time, I replied, picking up a photo from my desk, the last family picture taken before I'd left to find myself. I think it's time for the owner of Grand Azure to make a proper appearance. The day of my father's birthday arrived with picture-perfect Maldivian weather. From my private villa, a secluded sanctuary even more luxurious than the Royal Ocean Villa where my family was staying, I watched their arrival through the resort's security feeds. Amanda stepped out of the seaplane first, designer sunglasses in place, already ordering staff around as if she owned the place. Behind her, my parents emerged, my father looking impressed despite himself, my mother critically examining every detail of the welcome ceremony I'd personally designed. Your family has arrived, Emma reported, tablet in hand. Your sister has already requested 3-room upgrades and complained about the champagne selection, not realizing it's a $2,000 bottle. I smiled, adjusting my resort director's blazer. For phase 1 of my revelation, I'd be playing Sarah Chin, the resort's general manager, another of my carefully crafted aliases. How long before they realize their industry discount doesn't exist in our system? The front desk is handling it now, Emma replied, pulling up the security feed. Your sister is not taking it well. On the screen, Amanda was turning an interesting shade of red. What do you mean there's no discount? We have connections at Kingston Hotels. This must be a mistake. I watched as my carefully trained staff handled the situation exactly as I'd instructed. Mrs. Kingston, the front desk manager said smoothly, we have no affiliations with Kingston Hotels. However, your stay has been personally approved by the owner of Eclipse Luxury Resorts. The owner? My mother perked up immediately. E.J. Parker is here? Yes, madam. In fact, Miss Parker has arranged a special dinner for your father's birthday celebration tonight. I checked my watch, 6 hours until dinner, where they'd find out just who E.J. Parker really was. But first I had some entertainment planned. Disguised as Sarah Chin, I approached their group. Welcome to Grand Azure. I'm the resort director. We're honored to have you with us. Amanda immediately switched to her networking mode. Sarah darling, we're practically industry colleagues. I'm the VP of Guest Relations at Kingston Hotels. I bit back a laugh, knowing that Kingston Hotels' entire annual revenue was less than what Grand Azure made in a month. How lovely. Please, let me show you to your villa. As we walked through the resort, I pointed out features I'd personally designed, The overwater spa pods, the underwater restaurant, the private beach coves. My family oohed and awed, having never experienced this level of luxury at their mid-range hotels. This must cost a fortune to maintain, my father mused, ever the hotel manager. The logistics alone. Our owner is quite particular about details, I replied, thinking of the countless nights I'd spent perfecting every aspect of my properties. Speaking of which, Miss Parker has arranged something special for your birthday dinner. E.J. Parker, my mother said dreamily. I heard she's quite young for a hotel magnate. Brilliant investor. Very mysterious. Amanda sniffed. Probably some trust fund baby who got lucky. Not like us. We actually work in hospitality. I led them to their villa, suppressing a smile as they gasped at the infinity pool, the personal butler service, the hand-selected artwork, all chosen by their struggling daughter. Your sister was invited, wasn't she? I asked innocently. Emma Parker? I believe she's quite well known in travel blogging circles. Amanda waved dismissively. Oh, she couldn't afford this place. Besides, she's probably in some hostel in Thailand still trying to find herself. How interesting, I murmured, knowing that in a few hours, they'd discover exactly what I'd found, an empire that made their precious Kingston hotels look like a speck in the ocean surrounding us. As sunset approached, I changed from my resort director's outfit into an elegant white designer dress, one that cost more than a month's stay in their best Kingston hotel suite. The private dining pavilion I'd arranged floated on crystal-clear waters, with glass floors revealing the illuminated coral reefs below. Emma appeared with final preparations. Your family is being escorted here now. The revelation documents are ready, including the recent acquisition papers. Ah yes, my latest acquisition. I just bought Kingston Hotels through a shell corporation, though they didn't know it yet. A small purchase compared to my other properties, but poetically fitting for tonight's revelation. I watched through the pavilion's tinted glass as they approached, dressed in their finest, though even Amanda's designer dress probably cost less than the champagne I'd selected for tonight. Miss Parker will join us shortly, the maitre d' announced as my family was seated. She personally selected tonight's menu. I heard she never appears in public, Amanda stage whispered. Probably some old woman who got lucky in real estate. My father was examining the hand-blown crystal glasses. This single dinner setting probably costs more than our annual renovation budget. Actually, I said, stepping into the pavilion, each place setting costs more than Kingston Hotel's entire quarterly profit. The silence was absolute. My mother's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. Amanda's jaw dropped inelegantly. My father simply stared, recognition warring with disbelief. Emma, he finally managed. Hello, family. I took my seat at the head of the table. Or should I say, welcome to my resort? This is impossible, Amanda sputtered. You're a travel blogger. You post pictures of hostels. I smiled, nodding to the staff who began serving the first course, a dish that cost more than a night in their best suite. Those hostels were my properties. Every budget hotel review, market research. That travel blog you mocked? It has 6 million followers and drives bookings to my resorts. Your resorts? My mother's voice was faint. Eclipse Luxury Resorts. 35 properties across the globe with 15 more under development. And as of this morning, I slid the acquisition papers across the table, the new parent company of Kingston Hotels. My father picked up the documents with trembling hands. You bought our company. Your employer, I corrected gently. The company you work for. And yes, I did. Consider it a birthday gift, Dad. Your little hotel chain will make a nice addition to my economy brand portfolio. Amanda was frantically Googling on her phone. E.J. Parker. Emma Jane Parker. Oh my God. The struggling daughter who needed to find herself found a few things along the way, I continued, sampling the wine I had flown in from my vineyard in France. Like how to build a hospitality empire that makes Kingston Hotels look like a roadside motel. But the money? My mother stammered. How did you? My inheritance? I invested it. That tiny trust fund you thought I was wasting on travels? It built this. I gestured to the surrounding luxury. Every property you thought I couldn't afford? I designed them. That industry discount you tried to use? I own the industry. The staff served the main course on plates that cost more than their monthly salary. My family sat in stunned silence, their worldview visibly crumbling. So, I said pleasantly, about that party invitation I couldn't afford. Emma, we didn't know. Amanda began. Clearly. I smiled, signing the guest book that would be displayed in the resort's lobby, my first public signature as owner. Now, shall we discuss the future of Kingston Hotels? I'm thinking a complete renovation. The kind of upgrade you could never afford before. But fortunately, money isn't an issue for your new owner. As the evening progressed, I detailed my plans for their company, watching their expressions shift from shock to grudging admiration. By dessert, even Amanda had stopped trying to process how her poor sister had become her boss. "Happy birthday, Dad," I said, raising my glass. "Welcome to my world. The view is much better from up here, isn't it?"